They built their empires not with talent, but with access. Not with genius, but with proximity. Not with what they knew, but who whispered their name in the right rooms. You were taught to work hard, to be good, to wait your turn. They were taught something else. Something older. Something that doesn't appear in any LinkedIn course or networking seminar. This is not about making friends. This is about architecting influence. This is about becoming the kind of person powerful people cannot afford to ignore. Machiavelli never wrote about networking. He wrote about survival. But survival, at the highest levels, is a social game. And the players who win are the ones who understand 13 laws that no one will ever teach you in public. If you have ever felt invisible in rooms that mattered, if you have watched less capable people rise because they knew someone, if you are done being overlooked, then what comes next will rewire how you see every conversation, every introduction, every room you enter. But this only works if you hear all 13 laws. Miss one and you will spend your life wondering why the door never opened. Subscribe now, because this is not content you stumble upon twice. Here is what they do not tell you about power. It does not sit in boardrooms waiting to be impressed by your resume. Power moves in circles. Closed circles. And those circles decide who enters not by merit, but by trust, utility, and perception. You are not trying to impress powerful people. You are trying to become unavoidable to them. There is a difference. One makes you a fan. The other makes you a player. And everything depends on understanding that difference before you say a single word. The first law is this. Law 1. Never approach power as a petitioner. The emperor was dying. Everyone knew. The palace filled with physicians, priests, advisors. All of them kneeling. All of them offering prayers, remedies, wisdom. All of them begging to be seen as essential. Then a stranger entered. He did not kneel. He did not offer help. He simply stood in the corner and watched. The emperor noticed. He always noticed who did not beg. He called the stranger forward. "Why do you not offer me your service?" the emperor asked. The stranger replied, "Because you are surrounded by those who need you to live. I am the only one in this room who does not." The emperor smiled. That man became his closest advisor. When you approach powerful people as someone who needs them, you trigger an ancient instinct. They categorize you. Petitioner. Supplicant. Beneath. They may be polite. They may even help. But they will never see you as equal. And if they do not see you as equal, you will never be in the room when decisions are made. Powerful people are approached all day by those who want something. Access. Advice. Validation. Money. They are exhausted by need. So when someone arrives without need, without the scent of desperation, they pay attention. Not because you are rude, but because you are rare. This does not mean arrogance. It means equanimity. It means you enter every interaction as someone with options. Because power is a mirror. It reflects how you see yourself. If you see yourself as lucky to be there, they will too. If you see yourself as a peer who happens to be earlier in the journey, they will feel it. You are not trying to take from them. You are exploring whether there is alignment. That shift in frame changes everything. Stop asking for coffee to pick their brain. Stop sending messages that reek of hunger. Start showing up in contexts where your presence alone communicates value. Contribute to the room before you ask anything from it. Speak once, but make it sharp. Then leave space. Powerful people respect those who are comfortable in silence. Because silence means you are not performing. And performance always signals insecurity. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you entered a room and did not immediately try to prove you belong there? Comment below. I want to know if you have ever caught yourself performing for power instead of standing in your own. Law 2. Become a source, not a seeker. There is a reason the same names keep appearing in the same circles. It is not luck. It is not charm. It is utility. Powerful people curate their networks like investors curate portfolios. Every person must yield something. Information, access, leverage, entertainment, loyalty. If you are not yielding, you are not staying. So the question is not how do I meet powerful people? The question is why would a powerful person keep me in their orbit? You must become a source, not of flattery, not of need, but of something they cannot easily get elsewhere. This is where most people fail. They think proximity is the goal. It is not. Proximity without utility is tourism. You meet them once. You take the photo. Then you are forgotten. But if you bring them something valuable, something rare, they will remember. And they will return. What do you bring? Maybe it is insight into an industry they are trying to understand. Maybe it is access to a community they cannot reach. Maybe it is an introduction to someone they have been trying to meet. Maybe it is simply taste. The ability to filter signal from noise. To recommend the book, the restaurant, the hire that others miss. Taste is rarer than intelligence. And at high levels, it is more valuable. But here is the trap. You cannot fake this. Powerful people have spent decades learning to detect artifice. If you bring them something because you want something back, they know. The transaction poisons the gift. You must bring value because you are the kind of person who naturally creates value. Not as a tactic, as a way of being. This is why Machiavelli said the prince must appear generous without depleting his treasury. You must give, but never from scarcity. Give from overflow. Give because you already have enough that sharing costs you nothing. So ask yourself right now, what do I have that someone 20 years ahead of me would find genuinely useful? If you cannot answer that, you are not ready to build the connection. You are ready to build the skill. Law 3. Enter through the side door, never the front. Everyone is trying to meet the king. So the throne room is crowded, loud, desperate. The king is numb to it. But there is always a side door. And it is always guarded by someone no one is paying attention to. The assistant. The operator. The person who manages the calendar, the inbox, the access. They are invisible to most, but they are the hinge upon which the door swings. Treat them like furniture, and you will never enter. Treat them like the gatekeeper they are, and the gate opens. Machiavelli understood this. He knew that princes were surrounded by layers, and each layer was a test. If you could not navigate the outer rings with grace, you did not deserve the center. Powerful people do not have time to meet everyone, so they delegate trust. They rely on the people closest to them to filter the world. If those people vouch for you, you are in. If they do not, it does not matter how brilliant you are. This is not manipulation. This is respect. The assistant is not an obstacle. They are a professional with their own goals, pressures, status. When you recognize that, when you treat them not as a stepping stone but as a human being with agency, something shifts. They remember you. And when the opportunity arises, when the powerful person asks if there is anyone interesting I should meet, your name comes up. Not because you begged. Because you were respectful, clear, and memorable. The same applies to every other side door. The person who organizes the conference. The moderator of the private group. The friend of a friend who happens to be in the room. These are not lesser paths. They are wiser ones. Because they filter out everyone who thinks power is a straight line. Power is a maze. And the people who know the maze are often more valuable than the people at the center of it. Have you ever ignored someone because you thought they were not important enough, only to realize later they were the key to everything? Drop a comment. Let us learn from the mistakes we pretend we did not make. Law 4. Master the art of strategic absence. They only miss what disappears. If you are always available, always responding, always in the room, you become part of the furniture. Familiar. Expected. Boring. But if you are selectively absent, if you appear and then vanish, you become a question mark. And human beings cannot resist a question mark. Especially powerful ones. They are used to people clinging. So when someone does not cling, they wonder why. And that wonder is the beginning of interest. This is not about playing games. This is about understanding attention. Attention is finite. The more you demand of it, the less valuable you become. But if you show up at exactly the right moment, deliver something sharp, then disappear, you become memorable. You become the person they think about when you are not there. And that is more powerful than anything you can do when you are present. Machiavelli wrote that a prince should be loved and feared, but if he must choose, fear is safer because it is more consistent. The same logic applies to presence. It is better to be missed than to be tolerated. Toleration fades into resentment. But absence, strategic absence, creates longing. It creates the sense that your time is valuable. That access to you is not guaranteed. And nothing makes a powerful person more interested than the sense that you have other options. But here is the key. Your absence must be earned. You cannot disappear before you have delivered value. That is not strategic. That is just irrelevant. You must first prove that your presence matters. Then, and only then, does your absence create the tension that pulls them toward you. Show up. Contribute. Then leave before they expect you to. Let them be the ones who ask when you are coming back. Law 5. Never reveal the full map. Knowledge is power only when it is unequal. If they know everything you are redundant. But if they sense you know more, if you hint at depths they have not yet seen, you become indispensable. This is why Machiavelli advised princes to keep their counsel close and their strategies hidden. Not out of paranoia. Out of leverage. The moment everyone knows your plan, you lose the ability to adapt. And you lose the mystique that makes people lean in. When you speak to powerful people, do not empty yourself. Do not explain every detail, every source, every method. Give them the insight. Give them the result. But keep the process partially veiled. Not to deceive, but to maintain depth. Because depth is what separates the consultant from the advisor. The consultant delivers answers. The advisor delivers questions that lead to transformation. And transformation requires trust. And trust requires mystery. This also protects you. If they know exactly how you do what you do, they can replace you. But if your value seems to come from something intuitive, something experiential, something that cannot be easily taught, you become irreplaceable. They need you not just for what you know, but for how you think. And how you think cannot be extracted in a single conversation. So when they ask how you knew that, smile. Say something like, I have been paying attention to patterns most people ignore. Then move on. Do not lecture. Do not inflate. Just let the statement hang. Let them imagine the rest. Imagination is always more compelling than explanation. Subscribe if you are starting to see it. If the frame is shifting. If you are realizing that influence is not about what you say, but about what you make them feel when you stop talking. Law 6. Align with rising powers, not established thrones. By the time someone is famous, their inner circle is closed. Locked. Calcified. They do not need new people. They need protection from new people. But there is always someone on the rise. Someone 2 years away from breaking through. Someone who is brilliant but not yet recognized. Someone who is building but has not yet arrived. That is where you position yourself. Not at the peak, but on the climb. Machiavelli understood that alliances formed during struggle are stronger than alliances formed during prosperity. Because when you help someone while they are rising, they remember. When you help someone after they have risen, you are just another expense. The person who is already powerful does not owe you anything. But the person who becomes powerful while you were standing beside them, they owe you everything. This requires discernment. You must be able to see potential before the world does. You must be able to identify who is moving, who is learning, who is building leverage in silence. These are not the loudest people. They are the most focused. They are not chasing clout. They are chasing mastery. And mastery always converts into power eventually. Find them early. Offer support. Make introductions. Amplify their work. Not because you want something from them now, but because you are building a relationship that will compound. And when they rise, and they will rise, you will rise with them. Not as a hanger-on, but as someone who was there before it was obvious. This is the difference between networking and alliance building. Networking is transactional. Alliances are positional. You are not collecting contacts. You are choosing sides. And the side you choose before the war determines your spoils after. Law 7. Speak less, observe more, strike once. The room is full of voices. Everyone trying to be heard. Trying to be impressive. Trying to prove they belong. And in all that noise, the powerful person is not listening. They are scanning. They are watching who speaks just to speak, and who speaks because they have something to say. And when someone finally says something that matters, the room goes quiet. That is the person they remember. You do not need to dominate the conversation. You need to end it. You need to be the one who drops the line that reframes everything. The insight that makes everyone pause. That only happens if you have been listening. Really listening. Not waiting for your turn, but absorbing, processing, connecting dots others missed. Machiavelli was a diplomat before he was a writer. He spent years in rooms with princes, generals, popes. And he learned that the person who talks the most is rarely the person with the most power. Power listens. Power watches. Power waits. And when power speaks, it does so with precision. One sentence that redirects the entire conversation. That is influence. So train yourself to be quiet, not passive, but patient. Let others exhaust themselves. Let them reveal their agendas, their insecurities, their blind spots. And then, when the moment is right, when you see the opening, speak. Make it clean. Make it sharp. Make it something they will quote later when you are not in the room. Because that is the goal. Not to be the loudest in the room, but to be the voice they hear in their head after the room empties. What is the most powerful thing you have ever heard someone say in a room full of noise? Comment it. Let us study what makes a sentence unforgettable. Law 8. Offer loyalty, but never dependence. Powerful people value loyalty, but they despise dependence. Loyalty says, I am with you. Dependence says, I cannot survive without you. And the moment you cannot survive without them, you become a liability. Because dependence breeds resentment. On both sides. You resent them for having power over you. They resent you for being a weight they must carry. Machiavelli warned that princes should never rely on mercenaries, because mercenaries fight for coin, not cause. The same applies in reverse. You must never become a mercenary to someone else's power. You must be loyal, yes. Reliable, yes. But also autonomous. Capable. Someone who chooses to align, not someone who has no choice but to follow. This is a paradox most people cannot hold. They think loyalty means submission. It does not. Loyalty means alignment of interest. It means I will support you because doing so serves both of us. Not because I am desperate. Not because I am weak. But because I see the value in the relationship and I choose to honor it. When you show up as someone who is loyal but not dependent, you become rare. Because most people are one or the other. Either they are independent to the point of arrogance, burning bridges to prove they do not need anyone. Or they are so desperate for connection that they dissolve into whoever is in front of them. But you are neither. You are solid. You are with them, but you are not theirs. And that makes you someone they can trust without fearing you will collapse the moment they are not holding you up. Law 9. Control the frame, not the conversation. You do not need to talk the most to control the room. You need to set the terms. The frame is the invisible structure around every conversation. It is the assumption everyone is operating under. And whoever sets that assumption controls the outcome, even if they never say another word. Here is what that looks like. Someone asks what you do. Most people answer directly. I am a designer. I run a startup. I work in finance. But that is allowing them to frame you. Instead, you pause. You say something like, I help people solve problems they did not know they had. Now they are curious. Now they are asking follow-up questions. Now you control the flow. Machiavelli understood that perception is more important than reality. A prince does not need to be merciful. He needs to appear merciful. Because what people believe determines how they act. If they believe you are powerful, you are. If they believe you are valuable, you are. And belief is shaped not by facts, but by frames. So in every interaction, ask yourself, what is the frame here? Are they interviewing me, or are we exploring mutual fit? Are they doing me a favor, or are we both evaluating an opportunity? The way you answer that question, silently, in your own mind, will change your body language, your tone, your word choice. And they will feel it. This is not manipulation. This is clarity. You are not lying. You are refusing to accept a frame that diminishes you. And that refusal, that quiet sovereignty, is what makes powerful people see you as an equal. Law 10. Create scarcity around your time and attention. If you are always free, you are never important. If your calendar is always open, the message is clear. No one else wants your time, so why should I? Scarcity is not a trick. It is a signal. It tells people that others value what you offer. And human beings are social creatures. We look to others to determine value. If no one else wants it, we assume it is not worth wanting. But if everyone is competing for it, we assume it must be precious. This does not mean being rude. It means being intentional. It means when someone asks for your time, you do not immediately say yes. You pause. You check your calendar. You offer a window that works for you. Not because you are trying to seem important, but because you actually are protecting something valuable. Your focus. Your energy. Your ability to do deep work. Powerful people recognize this instantly, because they do the same thing. They know what it costs to be interrupt-driven. They know that the people who guard their time are the people who produce extraordinary things. So when you demonstrate that same discipline, you signal that you are operating at the same level. You may not have the same resources, but you have the same respect for your own agency. And that respect is magnetic. Because most people are so eager to please, so desperate to be liked, that they will bend their entire schedule to accommodate someone they perceive as important. But you do not bend. You collaborate. You find a time that works for both. And in that small negotiation, you communicate something profound. I value this conversation. And I value myself. Have you ever said yes to something you should have said no to, just because you were afraid of seeming difficult? Tell me in the comments. Because that fear is what keeps most people from ever being taken seriously. Law 11. Never outshine too early, but never fade either. There is a scene Machiavelli would have loved. A young advisor, brilliant, sharper than everyone in the room. He knows it. And he makes sure everyone else knows it too. He corrects the leader in public. He offers solutions before problems are fully articulated. He dazzles. And within 6 months, he is gone. Not because he was wrong, but because he made the leader feel small. Power is fragile, even when it looks secure. And no one, no matter how confident, enjoys being outshone. Especially not by someone they are supposed to be mentoring. So if you are the smartest person in the room, and you make that obvious, you will win the argument and lose the relationship. And losing the relationship means losing the room. But here is the tension. You also cannot fade into the background. If you never demonstrate capability, you will be forgotten. So you must walk a line. You must be brilliant enough to be valued, but humble enough not to threaten. You must make the powerful person look good, but not at the cost of your own visibility. How? You give them the insight privately. You let them present it publicly. You become the person who makes them sharper, smarter, more effective. And over time, they become dependent on that edge you provide. But the dependency is invisible to everyone else. To the outside world, they are the genius. To the inner circle, you are the architect. This is not about hiding. This is about timing. Early in the relationship, you support. You enhance. You reflect their light. But as trust builds, as your value becomes undeniable, you step forward. Gradually. Naturally. Until one day, you are no longer in the shadow. You are standing beside them. And no one can remember when the shift happened. Law 12. Trade in secrets, not gossip. Gossip is cheap. Everyone has access to rumors, speculation, drama. It spreads quickly and dies quickly. But secrets, real secrets, the kind that shift perception or open doors, those are currency. And if you can become someone who holds valuable secrets without weaponizing them, you become powerful in a way most people will never understand. Machiavelli knew that information asymmetry was the foundation of political power. The prince who knew what others did not could act while others hesitated. The same is true today. If you know something that changes the landscape, a merger before it is announced, a hiring decision before it is public, a shift in strategy before it rolls out, and you share that carefully, selectively, with someone who can use it, you become indispensable. But the key is discretion. The moment you are known as someone who leaks, you lose access. No one will tell you anything again. So you must be a vault. You must demonstrate, over and over, that you can hold weight. That you do not trade secrets for status. That you only share when it serves a purpose. And when you do share, it is never to harm. It is to position, to prepare, to protect. This also means you must be in rooms where secrets are spoken. Which means you must be trusted. Which means everything else in these 13 laws must already be in motion. You cannot buy your way into the inner circle. You must be invited. And you are only invited when you have proven that you are not a risk. So start small. Keep the small confidences. Prove you can be trusted with things that do not matter. And eventually, you will be trusted with things that do. Law 13. Build in private, reveal in power. Everyone wants to announce their plans. The startup they are launching, the book they are writing, the move they are making, and the moment they announce, they lose leverage. Because now people can prepare. They can copy. They can compete. They can dismiss. But if you build in silence, if you move without broadcast, you can reveal only when you are already undeniable. Machiavelli advised that a prince should never reveal his strategy until it is already in motion. Because strategy is fragile. It requires secrecy to survive. The same applies to you. If you are building a relationship with someone powerful, do not post about it. Do not name drop. Do not perform the connection. Just build it. Let the relationship deepen in private. And when it is strong, when it is real, it will become visible on its own. Not because you announced it, but because the results speak. This is hard. Because we live in a world that rewards the appearance of progress more than progress itself. But appearance is not power. Results are. And results come from focus. And focus requires silence. So resist the urge to share every move. Resist the urge to prove you are connected. Just be connected. And let the world catch up later. When you finally do reveal, you do not brag. You simply exist in a new position. You are in the room. You are at the table. You are included in the conversation. And people will ask how you got there. And you will smile. And you will say something like, I have been building for a while. Then you will move on. Because you do not need to explain. The position explains itself. This is the final law because it is the hardest to follow. It requires patience. It requires faith that the work will compound even when no one is watching. But that faith is what separates those who perform power from those who possess it. You have just absorbed 13 laws that most people will never hear. Not because they are hidden, but because they require a kind of honesty most people are not ready for. These laws do not make you liked. They make you respected. They do not make you popular. They make you influential. And influence, real influence, is not about how many people know your name. It is about whether the right people take your call. If you are serious about this, if you are not just watching for entertainment but actually preparing to move differently, then subscribe. Because this channel is not for everyone. It is for the few who understand that power is not given. It is architected. And architecture requires a blueprint. Now let me tell you what happens when you ignore these laws. You stay in the outer ring. Forever. You watch others move past you. Not because they were smarter. Not because they worked harder. But because they understood the game you did not even know you were playing. You send the emails that never get answered. You attend the events where no one remembers your name. You work yourself to exhaustion and wonder why effort is not enough. And here is the truth no one wants to say out loud. Effort is not enough. Talent is not enough. Goodness is not enough. The world does not reward those things by default. It rewards those things when they are combined with positioning. And positioning is social. It is relational. It is strategic. You can be the most brilliant person in your field and die unknown. Or you can be moderately capable and become legendary, simply because you knew how to connect with the people who control the microphone. That is not cynicism. That is reality. And once you accept that reality, you can start playing the game instead of pretending it does not exist. But here is the other side. These laws are not shortcuts. They do not replace competence. They amplify it. If you are mediocre, no amount of social strategy will save you. You will be exposed. But if you are excellent, if you are genuinely building something valuable, then these laws become the difference between obscurity and impact. So the question is not whether you are good enough. The question is whether you are willing to be strategic about how your goodness reaches the people who can amplify it. Because the world is full of people doing important work in silence. And most of them will stay silent, not because the work does not matter, but because they never learned how to translate excellence into influence. Let me give you a framework to think about this differently. Imagine two people, both exceptional, both disciplined, both creating at a high level. One believes that good work speaks for itself. The other believes that good work must be positioned to be heard. The first person waits. The second person moves. The first person hopes to be discovered. The second person architects discovery. 10 years later, the first person is still waiting, still resentful, still convinced the system is broken. And maybe it is. But the second person is not waiting for the system to fix itself. They learned the system. They learned where the levers are. They learned who holds them. And they built relationships with those people. Not by begging, not by faking, but by offering value, demonstrating competence, and positioning themselves as someone who makes the people around them more powerful. That is what these 13 laws do. They turn you from someone hoping to be noticed into someone impossible to ignore. Now, some of you are thinking, this sounds manipulative. And I understand that reaction. Because we have been taught that strategy is deception. That intentionality is selfishness. That if you think about how you are perceived, you must be fake. But that is a lie. A convenient lie that keeps most people passive. Being strategic is not the same as being dishonest. You can be completely authentic and still think carefully about how you show up. You can be generous and still protect your time. You can be humble and still understand your value. The idea that you must choose between integrity and effectiveness is a trap. And it is a trap that keeps good people powerless. Machiavelli was not advocating for cruelty. He was advocating for realism. He was saying, here is how the world actually works. You can wish it worked differently. You can moralize about how it should work. But while you are wishing, someone else is moving. And they will shape the future you were too proud to fight for. So if you care about your work, if you believe what you are building matters, then you owe it to that work to make sure it reaches the people who can help it grow. And that requires connection, not shallow networking. Deep, strategic, intentional relationship building with people who have the influence you need. Let me ask you something. Who is one person, if they believed in your work, could change the trajectory of everything you are building? Think about that name. Picture their face. Now ask yourself, what would make them pay attention? Not what would make them like you. What would make them take you seriously? If you cannot answer that question, you are not ready to reach out. But if you can, if you know exactly what value you bring, exactly why they should care, exactly how the relationship could be mutual, then you are ready. And these 13 laws are your map. Comment below with the name of one person you want to connect with. You do not have to tag them. Just write the name. Let this be the moment you stop thinking about it and start strategizing around it. Here is what most people miss. Powerful people are not opposed to new relationships. They are opposed to wasteful ones. Every conversation costs them time. Time they could spend with family, on their work, in silence. So when you ask for their time, you are asking them to bet on you. And they only take bets that have a reasonable chance of payoff. That payoff does not have to be immediate. It does not have to be financial. But it does have to be real. Maybe you make them think differently. Maybe you introduce them to someone valuable. Maybe you solve a problem they did not know how to articulate. Maybe you just make them laugh in a way that reminds them why they do what they do. All of that is value. But it requires you to show up as someone capable of delivering it. And that is where most people fail. They show up empty. They show up needy. They show up hoping the powerful person will fill a gap in their life. But powerful people are not gap fillers. They are multipliers. They take what is already working and amplify it. So if you are not already working, if you do not already have momentum, they will not waste time trying to create it for you. This is why Law 2 matters so much. Become a source, not a seeker. Show up with something in your hands. Not something you bought or borrowed. Something you built. An insight. A connection. A perspective. Something that proves you are generative. Because generative people attract opportunity. Extractive people repel it. If you have made it this far, you are not here by accident. The algorithm did not randomly serve this to you. You are here because something in you knows it is time to move differently. You are tired of being ignored. Tired of watching less talented people win because they knew someone. Tired of playing by rules that were designed to keep you waiting. Good. Use that. But do not let it make you bitter. Bitterness makes you sloppy. It makes you resentful. And resentment leaks. Powerful people can smell it. And the moment they do, you are done. So instead of resenting the game, learn it. Master it. And then play it better than the people who pretend it does not exist. Subscribe to this channel if you want more of this. Not motivational noise. Not surface-level tactics. But deep strategy. The kind of thinking that changes how you see every room, every conversation, every opportunity. This is not for everyone. And that is the point. Let me leave you with this. Machiavelli wrote The Prince while he was in exile. Stripped of power. Humiliated. Forgotten. He had no army. No wealth. No position. All he had was a mind that understood how power worked. And he wrote it down. And 500 years later, we are still reading it. Not because he was the most powerful man of his time, but because he understood power better than the people who had it. You do not need to be born into power to understand it. You do not need money or status or connections to start building it. You just need to see clearly, to think strategically, to move with intention, and to refuse to accept the story that you are supposed to wait your turn. Your turn does not come. You take it. Not violently, not desperately, but deliberately. By becoming the kind of person powerful people need in their corner. By offering something they cannot get elsewhere. By showing up when it matters and disappearing when it does not. By speaking less and meaning more. By building in private and revealing in strength. That is how you create connections with powerful people. Not by chasing them, but by becoming someone they chase. And if you do this right, if you follow these 13 laws not as tricks but as principles, you will wake up one day and realize the room has shifted. You are no longer on the outside looking in. You are at the table. And the next generation is studying how you got there. Now go build it. In silence. With precision. And when the world finally notices, do not explain. Just smile. Because by then, you will already be 3 moves ahead. If this resonated, subscribe. If it challenged you, comment. If it changed how you see the next conversation you walk into, share it. But only with someone who is ready. Because this kind of knowledge is not for those who want comfort. It is for those who want power. Real power. The kind that does not need to announce itself. Welcome to the inner circle. Not because I gave you access, but because you decided you belong here.